A few months ago, Cody Rhodes was a guest on Busted Open Radio. And when he was asked about The Rock possibly coming back and taking his spot at WrestleMania, he said he wasn't worried about it. This was after Rock made that surprise appearance on Smackdown with Austin Theory. And he put The Rock over, he called him a model superstar, but he said, "I'm not flinching." He said, "I feel if The Rock and I were in the same room, he would expect nothing less from me. If you think it's somebody else, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you know it's me." That's the same attitude Rock had when he was climbing the ladder. I don't care who it is. If that happens to be The Rock, if it happens to be anybody, a wonderful superstar like LA Knight, a stellar performer like Sami Zayn, line them up and I'm going to do everything I can to outrun them. I mean that with the utmost respect. I wasn't shook at all by Rock's big day out. What I would say is not flinching. If Rock is part of WrestleMania 40, that would be outstanding. It's The Rock, but I don't think he'll be in my spot. On Friday night, he flinched. Cody Rhodes not only flinched, he literally stepped aside to allow The Rock to take his spot in the main event of WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. And while the match has not been made official yet, they have a WrestleMania kickoff event in Las Vegas this Thursday that's open to the press, which should be very interesting after their last press conference. And it's also open to the fans. It's open to the public, which also makes it interesting since Poor Cody and We Want Cody have been two of the top trends now for over 24 hours on social media. Even I underestimated how harsh the backlash was going to be to this. And I knew it would be bad, but I didn't think it would be this bad. I didn't think it would rise to a level where the crowds might potentially try to hijack it. But WrestleMania is in Philadelphia this year. The last time Rock and Roman Reigns shared a ring in Philadelphia, it didn't go so well. We could be seeing history repeat itself if they don't course correct quickly. What WWE did on Friday night is commit one of the biggest creative blunders in the history of this company. It might not be a box office blunder, but it was one of the worst creative decisions that they have ever made. I mean, at least they left Daniel Bryan out of the Royal Rumble match in 2014. That was bad enough. But imagine if he had won. Imagine if Daniel Bryan won the Royal Rumble in 2014 and then the very next night on Raw willingly gave up his shot to Batista. That would be the equivalent to what we saw on Friday. You've heard me coin the phrase dumb babyface syndrome. This is the worst example of it that I have ever seen. And what's so frustrating is that it didn't have to happen. The stage and the story was set for a rematch from last year's WrestleMania. They had Cody Rhodes go back-to-back in the Royal Rumble for the first time since Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998. I was in high school. That's how long it's been since we saw someone win back-to-back Royal Rumbles. He's part of a very elite club now, one of only 4 men to ever do that. Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin being the others. And now, it looks like Cody is poised to become the only one of those 4 to not go to WrestleMania to win the WWE Championship. He may end up with the loser bracket title, as Roman Reigns called it, but not the WWE title. After Cody won the Rumble last weekend, what did he do? He pointed up at Roman Reigns in the skybox. He made it very clear which championship he was coming after. And then on Raw Monday night, we had Seth Rollins in the ring, practically begging Cody to pick him. Do you remember when Mankind back in like 97, I think it was walking around with a giant sign that said, "Pick me, Steve." He wanted Steve Austin to pick him as his tag team partner. And I think eventually it led to Austin and Dude Love as partners, but he had that big sign. It was like Seth Rollins standing in the middle of the ring with a giant sign that said, "Pick me." Roman Reigns never shows up. Fight me for the workhorse title. He came off as desperate because even in kayfabe, he realized his meal ticket was gone. CM Punk was his ticket to the main event of WrestleMania on night 1. And with no Punk, even the Seth Rollins character knew that he needed Cody Rhodes if he wanted to have any shot at closing the show. And Cody told him he would think about it. and he was headed to Smackdown on Friday. When Roman Reigns hit the ring on Friday night, you remember what the reaction was from the crowd that night when he hit the ring. He was serenaded with Cody chants. He said there were some things said on Monday that he could not let go unanswered. He proceeded to bury Seth Rollins, who he called his little brother, and then he made fun of the fact that his name got no pop when he mentioned it. He said he's got the title, and all the people challenging for Seth's title, he's already beaten, which makes it the loser bracket title. He said Seth can't be running around in his wife's clothes and call himself the guy, which was kind of funny. He said Seth attacked his schedule. Yeah, I work less than you. I work 10 times less than you, and I still make 10 times more than you. Then he called Cody an idiot, which became prophetic a few minutes later. Because he's got values and all that crap, he doesn't even think Cody cares about the money. So you can either be the very best number 2 in the industry and challenge Seth Rollins, or you could take a crack at number 1 again. And Cody came out, he told Roman, you cheated me, I had you, and I think you know it. Seth Rollins, he's made a lot of amazing points this week. But one that I disagree with, he called that the Hollywood title. He said, you can call that whatever you want, but it's still the title that Bruno Sammartino held. The one that was put into his father's hands at Madison Square Garden and was swiftly taken away. He still wants that title. I want that title. I'm coming for you, Roman Reigns. But not at WrestleMania. He said that he mentioned taking counsel. One of the individuals he took counsel from, Roman knows very well, and he knows Roman Reigns very well. The Rock's music hit, If You Smell the Bullshit. He came to the ring, and he and Cody stared at each other, and the look on Cody's face said it all. I have never seen such a defeated look on the man's face before. He wasn't even trying to hide how he was feeling in that moment. And Rock pulled him in for a hug and he whispered something in his ear. All right, that's a nice story you got there. I think I'll finish it myself, you Kung Pao bitch. Cody walked to the back like a geek. Rock and Roman had a stare down, and that's how they went off the air. Roman Reigns may have called Seth Rollins his little brother, but The Rock treated Cody like his little brother. I'm still waiting on the injury update for Cody. As deep as Dwayne planted that knife in his back, I only hope it didn't sever any internal organs. After sleeping on it, I thought, let me see how I feel about this the next day. And after sleeping on it, I went back to watch it again. And I was actually angrier the second time watching it than I was the first. It is hard to put into words just how counterproductive and damaging that segment was. Not only to Cody Rhodes, but to Seth Rollins and to the World Heavyweight title. And the Royal Rumble match, which was rendered meaningless here. I've been calling the World Heavyweight title the consolation belt from day one, from the very day that it was announced. You guys know that. I've been saying it for 9 months. But it just hits a little bit different when they send their top star out there on live television in front of the world to reinforce the point. It's one thing if I say it. It's another thing if Roman Reigns is on TV saying it. And just like that, everything they've been building to for an entire year is cast aside to make way for one of the biggest ego trips that I have ever seen. And I always felt that Rock was more giving than most top stars when it came to putting people over and, being all about business and not just about himself. I mean, every top star in wrestling has to be selfish to some degree, some more so than others. But I always felt like Rock was kind of in the same camp, like Rock and even Jericho back in the day. There were some guys who were considered top guys who were more giving than others. But that Rock appears to be long gone. This Rock fights with Vin Diesel over the number of punches and kicks that they're allowed to take in a fucking fight scene so that they don't look weak, and has it written into his contracts that he can't lose a fight in any of his movies. This Rock joins the board of directors and the very next week sabotages the top babyface in the company to steal his spot in the WrestleMania main event. Think about the optics of that. Think about the optics of this segment airing so soon after Rock joined the TKO board. And how fucking selfish that is. Dave Meltzer says Dwayne is the one who pushed hard for this. The WrestleMania card changed when Punk and Brock were out and all the dominoes fell. He said Dwayne already wanted it, now he felt the card needed it. And they also felt this was better to change the news flow away from the Vince McMahon stuff. Well, mission accomplished, but I don't think it changed the news flow in the direction that they wanted, based on the reaction that this has been getting. And like Brandon Thurston said, I don't think prosecutors are going to give a shit what the WrestleMania main event is. But as the news media goes, they think they can try to deflect away from all that. Good luck with that. He says Cody was the plan when he won the Royal Rumble, which is why he won. Dwayne was going to face Rock later on, maybe at next year's WrestleMania, maybe in Saudi Arabia. Shit happens with Vince and Punk, and the Vince thing ends up being worse than they thought, and they changed the plan. But he says it was 100% going to be Punk against Seth and Cody against Roman this year. What really bothers me about this, I mean, there's a lot that bothers me about this, but for years, we have heard talk of WWE wanting Rock for a match with Roman Reigns, and that Rock wanted the match also, but it was just a matter of scheduling, or what the story would be, what's the creative going to be. This has gone on for years. There was talk of it for WrestleMania 37, but Vince McMahon wanted to delay it to the following year in Dallas so that they could have more fans in the building and none of the social distancing. So it was going to happen in Dallas. Dallas is where they set their fake record of 101,000 people at Cowboy Stadium. Originally, they were going to do Rock against Triple H on that show in 2016. That's why Triple H just had to go over on Sting when he did. And then he came back out later that night with Stephanie and they shot the angle with Rock and Ronda Rousey. Remember that? To set up either a singles match or a mixed tag for Dallas the following year. In the end, as is usually the case with Rock, it didn't happen. It fell through. So think about that. Sting may well have lost his one and only WrestleMania match for a Rock match that ended up not happening anyway. If you believe that's the real reason that Sting lost. So Rock and Roman in Dallas didn't happen. Then we find out from Rock himself that they were this close to doing the match in Hollywood last year. Rock met with Vince McMahon, he met with Nick Khan. In the end, they put their pencils down, they couldn't come up with the right idea for it. Fightful spoke to a longtime member of the WWE creative team who said there have been numerous meetings, pitches, and attempts to get Rock to do this match. One year, the excuse was that the story didn't make sense. The story didn't make sense then, but it makes sense now? There have been times where they didn't have the kind of depth that they have now at the top of the card, and they could have used an attraction like Rock on one of those shows. We finally come to a point where they don't need The Rock. They don't need to rely on the old guard, as they did for so many years. It was always Rock or Austin or Brock or Undertaker. It was always someone. They finally get to a point, business is booming, Cody's got this built-in ready-made story that has buy-in from the fans. And now, suddenly, The Rock decides, I'm ready to do the match. The one time they don't need him to do it. That's what's so frustrating about this. Mike Johnson had a big report up on PW Insider that had a lot more information on what went down here. He says numerous WWE sources have concurred that the decision to go with Rock against Roman at WrestleMania, which is expected to officially be announced this Thursday in Las Vegas, was a push by The Rock to move into the Mania main event backed by top TKO group executives. While WWE had been expertly building to a Cody Rhodes-Roman Reigns match, some sources believe it was done by Johnson to, as one source stated, save WrestleMania, after CM Punk and Brock Lesnar, for very different reasons, were taken out of the picture. Others believe that Rock pushed for the move and likely would have no matter what, given his massive $30 million stock payday is in part contingent on him hitting certain milestones. Sources familiar with the situation believe one of those milestones was Johnson returning to the ring this year, and that Johnson pushed for the match to happen sooner than later with the idea that he felt Reigns against Rock was the far bigger attraction. So it's very possible that no matter who was injured or not, Johnson says Cody versus Reigns may not have taken place because The Rock was back in the game and the most important members of the company management were going to acquiesce to Dwayne Johnson's ideas. He says, with Johnson's power as a member of the TKO board of directors, his Hollywood standing, and the backing of Ari Emanuel, Nick Khan, and others, the decision was made to go with Rock against Reigns as the headline bout, believing that it would be a greater attraction for the mainstream and also help push some positive momentum for the company. One source compared it to Johnson's attempts to take over the creative for the DC film franchise, noting that he came in originally as an actor to portray Black Adam, but by the time that process was done, he had changed the original plans from playing the opposition for Shazam, instead pushing that Black Adam should have his own film so he could eventually be set up to face Superman instead, and even went over the heads of executives to their superiors to get ideas approved. Johnson's long game was to gain control of the entire DC film franchise, only to lose that attempt when Warner Bros. Discovery gave that power instead to James Gunn and Peter Safran. And yeah, that whole DC power play was really embarrassing for Rock, and it blew up in his face. If you didn't follow what was going on at the time, he went over everybody's heads, straight to David Zaslav to make his pitch, and he pissed a lot of people off in the process. And then the box office came in for Black Adam, and it was a flop. Maybe he never got over that. I think it wounded his soul. It's not something that he's used to. This is all your fault, by the way. All you people listening to this is all your fault. If you would have just gone out to see Black Adam, poor Cody might still have his WrestleMania match. But between that and the XFL experiment failing, and they had to merge with the USFL, maybe he's not feeling as invincible as he used to be, where everything he touches turns to gold. Now he's trying to redeem himself with the one audience that he can always depend on. Only, it looks like he may have alienated a good part of that audience too. PW Insider is told this was a strategic move to give Johnson more political power overall and to show Endeavor's faith in his involvement, and that even Paul Levesque, who has done an admirable job as the chief creative officer, would, quote, lose that power struggle with Johnson at this point, as one source surmised. One source confirmed to us that former senior vice president of development at Johnson's 7 Bucks Productions, Brian Goerz, will be in the mix as the voice representing Johnson in the WWE creative process going forward. There are some who believe Goerz, who at one point was one of the longest tenured WWE head writers, will be around physically, at least for major shows going forward, and could even be there, this is key here, could even be there as a plan B if Endeavor ever needs to pivot WWE's direction and go with a Johnson-backed creative team down the line. If Paul Levesque did not have a reason to be paranoid before, with the Vince stuff, and if Endeavor at some point was looking to clean house, he's got a good reason to be now. Johnson says as far as the future for Cody, the current plan is for him to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40, a direction change that a lot of readers we've heard from resent, given that he has been pushing to, quote, finish the story all year, that finishing that story was in reach after a Royal Rumble win, and that even the WWE 2K24 video game, which Cody is on the cover for, is themed in part around fans finishing their own story. Beating Seth for a title does not end his story, especially since he's publicly stated that he needs to win the title his father had taken away from him for that story to end, and that the lineage of that belt is carried by Paul Heyman to the ring for Roman Reigns. This reads like an Endeavor call more than any unilateral decision made by Triple H, and I'm not saying that to excuse him because he's still the head of creative here. He is not to be totally excused, but it reads to me like Rock wanted the match, but he couldn't make up his mind. Then the Vince stuff happened, which has shaken these people so much so that they are desperate to do anything to deflect away from it. Rock saw his opportunity and he took it, knowing full well that he had TKO's backing. Right now, they're looking at this as what is the biggest possible match that we can do right now that is going to make us the most money and get us some positive headlines. That match is Roman Reigns against The Rock. And look, if Rock wants to do the match, I'm not saying you don't do the match. I'm saying you do the match at a time and a place that makes the most sense. What they did on Friday night made absolutely no sense. I know that Rock went out on Raw a month ago and he teased it. He dropped the line about sitting at the head of the table. But then they had Cody go and win the Royal Rumble. So this was clearly a late decision. If it was made a month ago, they would have been better off having Rock enter the Royal Rumble as a surprise and win the entire thing. Would that have made people happy? No, you would have had a lot of very angry people, myself included. But it would have made more sense than the shit that they pulled on Friday night. And it would have spared Cody the embarrassment of doing what he did. This makes their top babyface look like an impotent fool. And that is never a good way to treat your top babyface. That's a great way to make sure he's not your top babyface anymore. Rock's been making the media rounds last couple of weeks, answering questions about a match with Roman. We're going to get you back in the ring. Are we going to get a match with you and Roman Reigns? I think Stephen A. Smith asked him about this, and he's been saying he's a long gamer. Yes, he's a long gamer, worming his way into the main event with 2 months to build to it. He's a long gamer. He talks about wanting to do something unprecedented. Remember that? He said that a few times. He wants to do something that has never been done before. He wasn't lying. He just became the first man to walk in and get the winner of the Royal Rumble to surrender their spot in the main event. Unprecedented indeed. Who knows how many TVs we're going to see Rock and Roman on between now and then, if in fact they are doing this match at WrestleMania. The Rock hit a spine buster and a people's elbow to Jinder Mahal last month and looked like he needed an oxygen mask. Fightful is saying that Rock will attempt to work a full-length match. Attempt? Attempt! Cody already handed the keys to the car to this guy. I sure as hell hope he would attempt to work a full-length match. I'm gonna try. Not only that, the Fightful Report said that some people that they spoke with in the company even believe that Rock was pushing to win the match. It's almost like Triple H, I'm sorry, I mean whoever's leaking this information, is trying to make Rock look like a gigantic asshole. It's hard for me to fathom that any of this is real. Except what I saw the other night really happened. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. He already politicked his way into the match. I guess it's not that far-fetched to think that he would want to win. You either die a hero or you live long enough to become Hulk Hogan. Are we really going to go through another year of Paul Heyman telling his phone to call Roman Reigns? I can't go through another year of that. Not so long as he's the champion. I can't go through another 7 months of people talking about a Hulk Hogan record that does not exist. They posted the full video of the segment on Smackdown to their YouTube channel, and Rock, loves to make history. He loves to set records. Well, congratulations. The video has set the record for the most dislikes of any video in the history of their channel. 94,000 likes, almost 500,000 dislikes. That alone is not going to get them to change anything. A couple of hashtags on Twitter is not going to get them to change anything. But you know what might? If the fans are vocal about it on TV. I don't know if the passion that's there online can be replicated on TV the way that it was 10 years ago with Daniel Bryan. Yeah, I saw one hashtag that made me laugh last night. People, they're calling this the woe movement. One difference is Batista against Randy Orton is a match that absolutely nobody asked for. Rock against Roman is a match that does excite a big part of their fan base. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not oblivious to that. But if you're upset about this and you want to let your voices be heard, then have at it. I would say you could also just, if you're going to go to the shows, when they're out there, just sit on your hands and not react, but they'll just pipe in crowd noise because that's what they do. Now, I admit, there's always the chance that this is some big swerve and we're being worked. They have not officially announced the match yet for Philly. They have a WrestleMania kickoff event in Las Vegas this week, not in Philadelphia, which is kind of interesting, given the rumors about WrestleMania possibly coming to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas next year. Vegas is not the only place that's been rumored. Minneapolis has been talked about for a long time for next year's show. But maybe, and maybe this is just me trying to be delusionally optimistic, maybe come Thursday, we get the announcement that The Rock will wrestle Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, but it's WrestleMania 41. And they announce it for Las Vegas. And we get so it's not just the announcement of the match, it's the announcement that, hey, WrestleMania next year is coming to Las Vegas. And then Rock turns and tells Cody, this is your story to finish this year, not mine. And they make Cody and Roman official for this year's show. That would be fantastic. In fact, I'm going to try to will it into existence. But it wouldn't make sense then why Cody specifically said he would not be challenging Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. There's no getting around that little detail. I think they fucked up. And I hope they call another audible because it's not too late to fix this. The last thing they want is another Goldberg-Lesnar match from WrestleMania 20. The last thing I want is another Goldberg-Lesnar type situation. Who wants to see that? I don't want that. I don't love this solution, but here's another way that this could potentially be fixed. You could do a triple threat match. Exactly what they ended up doing at WrestleMania 30. That way Rock can still be involved, but he doesn't have to work a singles match. Cody still pins Roman in the end. It's not my first choice, but it's an option. As things stand right now, it looks like Cody against Seth for the loser bracket belt on night 1, and Rock against Roman on night 2. So we get Cody Rhodes challenging for a title that he already said he's not interested in, against a man that he has already beaten 3 straight. I wouldn't even have Cody win. If they're really going to go ahead with Cody and Seth at WrestleMania this year, I would not even have Cody win. I would have Seth go over. I think if Cody wins the world title and gets the big pyro celebration at WrestleMania, the end of night 1, it takes away from his eventual moment winning the other belt. I do. I feel it does take a little something away from that. I would rather have Seth beat Cody, so he finally wins one against him, but then have Damian Priest immediately come out, cash in his money in the bank, and pin Seth to win the championship. You could even have Damian Priest, forget having even Seth beat Cody. You don't even need Seth to beat Cody. You could have Damian Priest pull on Rollins exactly what Rollins pulled on Lesnar and Reigns at WrestleMania 31 and cash in, making it a triple threat at the very end. You spare Cody, Priest pins Rollins, he becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. Neither Cody nor Seth walk out with the world title that night. If it's Rock against Roman for the belt, then Roman should win. And I never thought I would sit here and argue for Roman Reigns to retain for the 4th straight WrestleMania, but here we are. I've had a lot of scenarios pitched to me in the last 48 hours. Rock should not be winning and then dropping the belt to Cody. Rock going heel with some new version of the Hollywood Rock character. I'm not even sure it's a character at this point. Hollywood Rock makes no sense if they're doing a fight for the head of the table. Those two ideas, they don't really jive. The idea of a double turn where all of this leads to Rock going heel and Roman becoming the babyface they always wanted him to be. Roman will be a huge babyface at some point. He may be a huge babyface at WrestleMania if they go through with this idea. But what's the point of booking a double turn with 2 part-timers who were barely ever on television? I've had people pitching me a title unification for SummerSlam. Cody can win there and he can unify the belts. We don't need another title unification. Unifying the titles is what got us into this fucking mess in the first place. All because Roman got COVID. And they had to cancel that day 1 match with him and Brock. Then we ended up with a title unification at WrestleMania and Roman got the WWE title. They just introduced this new World Heavyweight belt less than a year ago. Already people are talking about another unification? That's not what we need. The fans are putting more effort into trying to fix their screw-up than WWE put into what we saw on Friday night. What Rock did was selfish. It's selfish and it's an insult to the rest of the roster if he honestly believes that he needs to save WrestleMania. Only The Rock can save the show. Only The Rock can save a show that's already sold 90,000 seats in the first 24 hours they put tickets on sale. Did the Vince McMahon stuff play a role in all this? Absolutely it did. Did The Rock want this match no matter what? You bet he did. But there were better ways to do it. And he should know better. People's champion my ass.